So we're going to start off by creating a really simple sorting algorithm. So let me just include my IO stream header file. And I'm going to include actually a define, and I'm going to define a max, and I'm going to set it as 100. I'm also going to be using my namespace standard, and then I'm going to have my integer main, and I'm going to have the return 0 right here. Alright, so let's just create an array. So I'll just call this as array, and I'm going to put a size as max, which is 100 specified, and I'm going to say to the user, enter a value of n. I would say n is the length, so we're just going to put n over here as defined. Going to get an input from the user as n, so n over here. And right after that, what we're going to do is basically associate it with the variable. So I'm going to say for int, and we're going to have to specify, like, we're going to have to add values to the adjusting memory location. So the array is going to have something between 0 to 100. So just note that we're going to have something in between of these two sets. So if I say I is equal to 0, because that's where the index starts from, and then I is less than n, and then we say I plus plus. What we can do here is we could just assign the values. So we'd say I, and then let me just assign it to a random number, so a random integer. So for that, I'm just going to have to include one more file, which is going to be called hash include C standard library, and this is supposed to give me some random integer. So I'm just going to get a random integer, and I want to display it, so I could just display using just add some comments for displaying. I'm going to say for loop, so I'm going to say integer I is equal to 0, I is less than n, then we say I plus plus, and let me just display out the stuff. So over here I, but we want to display them, so we're just going to have console output, and let's just put some spaces over here so that it's going to look a little more prettier. So how do I run this code? I'm just going to right click on this. I'm going to have run code over here. So let's just see in our terminal screen if we get some random numbers input. So it's supposed to say me, all right, so it's running, and it says enter a value of n, all right. So let me just say 10. Now it gave me 10 random numbers, 41 all the way to these till here. Okay, so if it's giving me 10 random numbers here, let me try another one. So let me just run this code, and now it's going to ask me for random numbers, and I could ask for 20, and it gave me 20 random numbers. Pretty cool. Okay, so I want to sort these random numbers because they're all in randomized order. So how do I sort them? One of the algorithms I'm going to be applying, and it's really simple and really basic. So just type along with me, and I'm going to be teaching you along the way. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to open up with a for loop. So integer I is equal to 0, and what I'm going to do in the beginning is basically I'm going to call this as sorting, and let's just sort this. So I'm going to sort this I is equal to 0, and then we say I is less than n, and we say I plus plus, and inside of it we have another loop, and this I'll just call as j is equal to 0, but actually it's going to be starting from I plus 1 because we're sorting in ascending order. So sorting, let me just say over here, sorting the array in ascending order. We're basically ascending in sorting in ascending order. So basically the j will be the next one afterwards, and we could just say j less than the size, and then we say the j plus plus. And now what we want to do here is a condition. Now it depends if the next element is smaller than the first. So if it's smaller than the first, like we say a array, and then we say sub j, if it's less than array sub I, meaning the I one is, look, we have something like 10, and then we have something like 4. Now that's not in ascending order, so we're gonna have to change, and we're gonna swap the values. So we should have 4 and then 10 instead of having that in reverse. So let me just fix this up by having this condition specified, I'm going to have a temp variable. So I'm just going to call it temp, and it's going to have the value of array sub I. So it's going to have the array sub I inside of it, and what's it going to do is the array sub I is going to be equaling to array sub j, because we want the array sub I to equal to the array sub j, and then the array sub j equals to the temp value. So basically we use a swap function, really simple. And what you can see that now it's going to loop through the whole container, and what we do is that it's going to be in this nested loop, and it's going to loop, and it's going to sort the elements in the array. So after that, let me just display the sorted array. So displaying it will just say for int I is equal to 0, I is less than n, and then we say I plus plus, and then we could just say console output, and we say array sub I, and just have this, and yeah, so this is going to be displaying. So let me just have a end line over here, so just having the console a little more prettier, and yeah, we could save it, and let me just run this code. So run code, and now it asks me for random numbers, so I put 10. Now it's gonna show me some random numbers in randomized order, and then after that I'm gonna apply my sorting algorithm that I've done with my nested loops, and you're gonna see a sorted form of my array. Now you see that we have 41, and these are just randomly generated using the rand function, and then after that we sorted it. You could see now this is in ascending order. Similar to that, we could do it in descending order, and we just had to reverse. So if I just reverse this portion from less than to greater than, now it's going to be in descending order. So if I run this code now you're going to have another batch of a random number. So let me just say, let's say 11 this time. So now you could see that 11 random numbers are generated, and if I just now it just did it in descending order. So it's the biggest one from the start, and it goes all the way to the smallest one. So that's pretty much it with this basic algorithm.